Yeah, you can irrigate underneath those.
Yeah, you can. The reason that I thought about that is running, when we first started talking about that pipe down the middle, is I thought about coupling it with like a net of film irrigation line too.
Right.
My worry was that your water's going down, not up, right? So when you have starting seedlings, you still got to top water, you still got to surface irrigate until they get established enough that they can get down into that, or you got to pump so much water through that net of film line.
Doesn't work that way though. Super saturation isn't gonna help you if you've got super saturated soil at the bottom.
That's what I mean.
You know,
So,
unless you have a peat moss base or like a zeolite in there to wick.
Something to pull
right?
it up. And then that's another discussion too, is what the media looks like. And I think the media for this looks a little different than what you use here.
Well, but, and you know, here the pride is on organic soil that grows really tasty vegetables.
Yeah.
So that's a design requirement there.
Exactly.
You want to be able to.
So it would be a site. The soil, the media would be a site design. It would be what
track. Yeah. What's the minimum requirements for the medium we're talking about in terms of heights?
For depth?
It varies on the types of planting.
It varies on the planting, but you can go. I think you could go as low as 8 inches, and then what's that? Less?
You go less. For some crops. You
go
down to
6 or 4 for
6 or 4 talking spinach and strawberry and herbs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then 18 for tomatoes.
Yeah. But if you're talking to Michael Abelman or people like that, or anyone, or the people that Sean's working with, they always want more. Like they really wanted. When we first built this, that we wanted to only go. For instance, we only wanted to go two widths high, and our farm consultant said no, it has to be. We want 18 inches.
The bottom width is just drainage.
Right.
Wow, we probably only skimped about 2 inches in there.
We threw whatever was left over. What? Getting back to what we should do today, there should be kind of a small, medium, large.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about originally.
We did, yeah. Like there's the spinach one. It's really tight and small, and that one it's like a there's like the cigar, the cigarette, and the
Cigarello.
So
thank you. I was looking for something more legal to use as my terminology around my 3-year-old. So, like, there has to be a range of those sort of things.
Well, we only have a little bit of materials today. So that's another concept.
Droopy.
Yeah, it doesn't get droopy. So in axle, essentially you have a rail, rope, and then that fabric is sitting like so, like a trough.
There's some precedents for that design too in greenhouses.
what?
Precedents for, there's a design. They use that same design in greenhouses. They use a shelving system, and they up the side of the greenhouse. There's maybe it's Estlin. They have all sorts of these types of systems.
We've talked about these too, and they're awesome ideas. The problem becomes when you're trying to build a lot of them, it's just the cost that goes into you putting more money into the frame. We've kind of gone full circle with this. We've looked at a lot of these, and they're very valid. I'm not suggesting they aren't for a second. It's just when you're talking about a greenhouse operation, they're going to be able to invest that money in those things because they're going to be recycling them, using them.
There's a lot of parts here
for years and years.
There's more parts in there.
Essentially, use the fabric to create a bag, and just by folding it, just creating a bag, and by folding it, and we'll clamp off using mechanical fasteners and plywood to clamp off the corners, and that would be the bag that contains the soil. And the other idea is essentially, we're talking about cross-section here now, is using, so that's another concept.
Droopy.
Yeah, it doesn't get droopy. So in axle, essentially you have a rail, rope, and then that fabric is sitting like so, like a trough.
There's some precedents for that design too in greenhouses.
What?
Precedents for, there's a design. They use that same design in greenhouses. They use a shelving system, and they up the side of the greenhouse. Maybe it's Estlin. They have all sorts of these types of systems.
We've talked about these too, and they're awesome ideas. The problem becomes when you're trying to build a lot of them is just the cost that goes into you putting more money into the frame. We've kind of gone full circle with this. We've looked at a lot of these, and they're very valid. I'm not suggesting they aren't for a second. It's just when you're talking about a greenhouse operation, they're going to be able to invest that money in those things because they're going to be recycling them, using them.
There's a lot of parts here
for years and years.
There's more parts in there. So what are we doing?
Cutting it and throwing some dirt in it and wrapping it up. I'll get the duct tape.
How are we holding it together when we...
Duct tape.
I think we'll just duct tape it. Okay.
Hey, Christopher, do you want to hold this for a sec? I'm going to get the duct tape.
Roll up some dirt.
Throw some dirt in it? Okay.
Well, I thought that maybe was rough. I thought that was so it's the least that you will pull a little bit. Pull a little bit. Yeah, there you go. So
Easily 18 inches, if not more.
Kind of corner, like it's pretty.
It's
You
nice.
just took the plywood,
rigid, eh?
right? Yeah. Like,
Why would you even want the plywood? Because the plywood breaks down. You would just,
well,
I mean,
just
for
fasten
today,
this
but
into
no,
it.
you just do eyelets and tie it all, strap it all together.
As long as you don't make the spans too big, this wouldn't setting.
True.
So the screws is just a lot faster. Yeah. So what, you put plywood on both sides and just screw right through both of them?
One side, you got some washers and some.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
I see
Yeah,
what
it could be a metal piece too.
But that's sort of like the, have you seen the Woolly Pocket Company? They do,
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
The thing with that, though, is you're putting, you end up with wasted soil, right?
Yeah.
Like the long linear one, you're really concentrating your soil.
But on the
this is
ground,
still
that's
sweet.
not, from like a soul food build standpoint, one on the ground side.
Soil's
It's
his
not
biggest
as-
cost.
Oh, okay.
Soil
Yeah,
is
but
the
you can
biggest
build
cost.
it to whatever size you
True,
want.
that's
but
true.
it's
I
in-
mean, I guess you could.
Go this size, it's 4 inches
There's
high.
there's the shape factor too.
Yeah,
right?
and because these aren't going to drain, you're going to have a bunch of water sitting on the
Well,
bottom.
you know,
Oh,
the
they can
drainage
poke
helps.
You put holes in them.
And I think you just put it on the sides,
Yeah.
right in the corners,
Yeah.
along the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, you could almost simulate the same thing. I bet you're gonna end up with the same thing
Give me
by
one
the
more
time you
piece.
build this. Like if you did this one, let's go ahead and mock it up. You would want it to be the width of a row, which is like 10 inches, right?
Yeah.
Right, maybe? Or more, 12 inches.
Well, talking to Sean, you want him. If we go in this direction, you want to maximize his passes with the cedar.
It's kind of like this 20 inches.
Well, at least as wide as a cedar, which was 12, I think. But he's saying that multiple passes are better.
Okay, well, why don't we get a couple
Yeah.
people working on this and a couple working on that?
You want to just get a.
And if somebody wants to cut, actually, this leftover piece here that we're going to cut can be the fleece for that. So let's cut this one at 13 inches.
Well, do we,